harder because that's an 18-foot long stick, and horses generally are far too sensible to run towards an 18-foot stick if it's pointing at them. Unlike soldiers, who really will run towards a stick.
You can see Parliament have brought out their colours. They're now starting to show who may be on the field, and you can see, you may have been this morning looking at the colours we showed in the display, but you can see some really bright colours coming on there, and that shows you the regiments. I can see some local regiments from the Bedfordshire Trained Bands. It looks like they're reinforced with the City Brigade, the City of London Brigade, who would have been based down in St Albans. So they've brought some of those in, as well as local regiments. And it looks like Parliament are actually come with quite a body of men, and of course 2 horse to support that as well.
For those of you who are interested in that sort of thing, like I am, when you look at these flags, some of the patterns look really modern. That blue one over there with the 3 white dots, that looks quite contemporary, doesn't it? It doesn't look old-fashioned at all. And this is one of those periods in history where fabric patterns and weaving and dyeing were more experimental than at any other time in British history, because we were cornering the market on weaving and fabric production and dyeing.
I can see the cannon are now loading and are getting themselves ready to fire. Now when the cannon do fire, you'll see the gun captain put his hand in the air when he's about to fire, and that's when you need just to hold yourself in the audience to make sure that you don't jump too much. They will do a bombardment before any of the troops come onto the field to try and clear any skirmishers out. I can see that the Parliament Army have brought their skirmishers back, and we're just going to wait to see when the cannon are going to fire. It was very slow in those days. You can see that the Parliament cannon is ready to fire.
And the Royalists look like they're having trouble getting their match lit, which is going to cause delays on firing back to Parliament. There we go.
Okay, so the battle has started now. The cannons are now firing, and they'll fire throughout the battle, trying to knock the other cannon out. That's their main job, but also to stop the infantry from coming round on the sides of each army and taking what's called the flank. Now on this side, on the crowd side, we've got the horse, who will be coming in at some point to keep off anyone else who tries to attack down the side of the battle. I think Parliament will be moving forward relatively soon. Once perhaps another cannon has fired, there'll be Parliament getting ready to move their troops ready. And in the Civil War, this was Englishmen against Englishmen, and they weren't keen to start fighting each other. They didn't go racing in. This could be your cousin or your uncle, your neighbour, someone that you actually knew could be on the opposite side. In fact, troops did change sides during the war to ensure that they stayed in with their lord or lady who was in charge of their area. And if you were captured in a battle, you took your coat off, turned it inside out and joined the opposition. And that's called being a turncoat, which you may have heard of.
And those dividing lines could go across families. So fathers were fighting on one side, sons, brothers. A lot of families were sort of cut in half by this and changed sides. There are recorded incidents of both sides changing sides, which must get really complicated at the dinner table.
I think it's also worth stating at this point that a lot of the common soldiery are just interested in getting regular pay, clean clothes, and kind of, shelter. Especially, employment was very kind of hard to come by, but at this early stage in the war, 1643, a lot of the army isn't properly equipped. When the Leighton Buzzard garrison was inspected, it was found that the soldiers were sharing pairs of breeches. So the one on guard duty would be wearing them, and they'd come off guard duty, and they'd switch to their friend who would then go on and take over guard duty.
And I think at the beginning of the Civil War, before the regiments were clothed in colours, so for example, the Royalists on the left-hand side here are all in blue, well, that wasn't the case at the beginning. People just were conscripted and they turned up in what they were wearing to fight. So you didn't know whose side other people were on. You could be fighting with someone who was on your side.
Certainly can see that Parliament have now arrayed themselves and are looking to bring themselves onto the field. They've formed what's called battalion, which you might call a line. They've got their muskets nearest us and their pikemen to the far side. And that's ready to defend against anything that the Royalists might do. The Royalists at the moment are keeping their calm. They've marched up and are waiting for the cannon to do some damage. But I know fairly soon the musket from Parliament will start to fire to try and draw the Royalists onto the field.
Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but do the Royalists have an advantage because their gun is bigger?
I believe it's got a longer range on it, so which means they can easily reach the cannon on the other side, and the Parliament cannon may not reach the Royalist troops. They are standing very nonchalantly, actually, by their cannon, and I can see it's like Captain Tyrrell, who's one of Colonel Lunsford's captains, has brought a company down from Leighton Buzzard, where they've actually been raiding during the day. The Newport Pagnell garrison and the St Albans garrison are joining on our right here, and I think actually, yep, I can see the Royalists are about to start moving and coming onto the field.
So the drummers have a very important role in the regiment, especially on the battlefield. All of the commands that the officers pass down to the musket or the pike, there's a code that is, so this will be a command, and then when it changes it's telling them to march on, and they will beat retreat. We still have that, it just happened. You know, trooping the colour, that's followed by a ceremony called beating the retreat. So that's still in existence, although it's mostly for show now.
Thank you, Zarish. I can see that the Lunsford Bluecoats are now coming on to the field. They're heading up towards there's a volley there from Parliamentarian musketeers. And Lunsford's walking on extremely calmly. They are a well-drilled battalion who have fought in the Scottish Wars, fought at Edge Hill, and have fought throughout the Reading campaign as well.
Had Lunsford experience before the Civil War in Europe? Do we know?
Yeah, a lot of Lunsford's men were actually in the Civil War, but before the Civil War were actually in the 30 Years' War, in Dutch service or in Swedish service. And actually, Lunsford himself and his brother, Sir Thomas Lunsford, had fought for the King at several engagements throughout the pre-Union wars and in the Scottish Wars.
Right, so I was wondering about the 30 Years' War and whether Lunsford had experience in that. Thank you.
You can see that Lunsfords are now manoeuvring. They are very much well manoeuvred and how to bring themselves exactly to the right place on the field. The Colonel will straighten them up and bring them in. Okay, so you can see now that the Bluecoats are starting to load. Parliament are extremely calm on that right-hand side of the battlefield. They are waiting. You can see the pikemen are like, we know we're not going in yet. The musketeers need to do their job.
Well, there's nothing really that they can do, can they? It's not an offensive weapon, the pike.
No, really you can use it to defend against horse, but also at the very last moment to go in with a crunch to try and knock the opposition pike block out of the way, and then the musketeers will pour through the gap. You really well trained. That's an amazing body from Parliament there. As they're getting closer, it will get more and more intense.
And the other thing that the pike are really good for is if you have a block of musketeers like this, let's say for example the Parliament army had a huge block of cavalry suddenly come in and go in, now they would automatically go to the musket to try and cause them damage.
Exactly,
and
yes.
then the pike would form a circle, all the musketeers get in the circle. As I said earlier, sensible horses won't go anywhere near pike. So they're completely safe in there. Sorry, Andy, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, I can see the musket are going to fire as a volley from the Royalists. I can also see the Parliament cavalry is now going to go charging in because they've fired their shots. And you can see the Royalist infantry are now actually defenceless and cavalry are going to go
the
in.
Parliamentarian horse.
Parliamentarian horse have gone in.
And actually, the charge of horse that Zarish talked about here.
Yeah, here they go. The pike are worried. One horseman can take out many people on foot because although the pikemen are armoured, the musketeers are not. and you know you've got a good 8 foot of horse with a fight on top, it's going to be real trouble. And the horse has decided that discretion is the better part of valour, and he's going to gallop back, having really caused disruption to the Royalist lines. Look at the stake now, they're trying to get themselves back into lines. Parliament are giving no mercy, they've just opened fire again, and we're hoping they're going to start closing to get a bit nearer on the battlefield towards the centre.
And of course, if your musketeers lose their nerve and run, horses are really good at just riding them down. You don't have to blunt your sword for that, you can just take them out. That's a technical term, So the chant you're listening to now, the Royalist cause was for King Charles I and his personal belief and his supporters' belief that he was ordained by God to be king. So a lot of their rhetoric was church-based and an absolute unfailing belief in the monarchy.
As you can see, the horse are waiting for that volley to go off, and again the horse are coming in to really disrupt, and the pike are now moving forward. They've seen the opposition pike coming forward, and you've now got the Parliamentarian and Royalist pike blocks trying to face each other off, and it's almost daring each other to come forward, because the pikes are topped with steel points, with langets, which means you can't chop off the end of the pike. And as you can see, the Lunsford's pike are in charge for horse formation, but Parliament have come forward and taken a lot of ground already.
Andy, if I may, that action of the Parliament horse there, that's disrupted that musket block. They've had no chance to reload. So a lot of the tactics are just to delay the other side from being able to defend themselves. Job done, Parliament horse just go back behind the lines for a rest.
Yes,
and wait for the next opportunity.
For the next opportunity. It's certainly what you can see, that the Parliament are not giving any ground. In fact, they're marching on to take as much ground as they can. They're looking for those opportunities when the horse has disrupted Lunsford's.
And you'll be able to see now that the pikes have charged, and they're going to go in at close combat with each other in a knitting action as they try and gain some advantage over the...
Did you just say knitting action?
Knitting action, I believe, is
knitting
what
action.
Johnny
Yeah,
said
knitting
there.
action.
Yes,
Knitting
knitting
Is
action.
that really a technical term in military history?
It certainly looks like knitting.
Yeah.
I think you might have dropped a stitch there. What would have happened, and we don't tend to do this, it's too dangerous, pikemen from the back would have crawled through the legs of the men in front and gone in with daggers and swords and started to slash the tendons and legs of the pikemen in front and bring them to the floor. We try not to do that because it does tend to ruin your journey home afterwards. Now you can see they've gone in for their first engagement, and the musketeers are getting closer and closer. The closer the musketeers get, the more likely there are to be some casualties from the musket fire.
And of course, if your pike block, if you imagine that this pike block is 500 men, and the other side is 500 men, there were reports of soldiers actually being lifted off the ground because the pressure of all the bodies pressing would lift the soldiers that were in the middle. And it could feel quite suffocating.
It's absolutely suffocated and lifted so they can't even reach anything. I'm very impressed with Parliament horse today. They're just taking every opportunity to disrupt Lunsford's muskets.
It's harassment, really, isn't it?
They should write to their MP about it.
That's not why.
Who might be John Hampden, actually, in this time. You can see the pike have come to a kind of impasse in the middle. Now, this happened often, and then they would pull back to regroup, rebreathe, but I think this time they're going to start to go in a rather more heavy duty system. Now, during the Civil War, the points would have been extended. We don't put the points out for this next part, it's too dangerous. They will go in as with the points lifted just to be safe. The musket are now going in hand to hand. Watch out for the sword fights.
Can I ask a question? So I can see a gentleman on the Parliamentarian side with all of the points on his breeches, all the black diagonal stripes. Does that mean something?
I think it means he's taken a rather nice pair of breeches from an expensive officer, because they all look rather nice, but no, there's no actual meaning to it, just the fact that they are extremely expensive. Once again, Parliament horse are coming in to support here on the front with the musket.
So he could be a gentleman volunteer?
He could well be, actually. He doesn't look very gentlemanly what he's doing to that man next to him that he's attacking.
And if you look
You
to the
can't be
back,
friends with everyone.
and if you look to the back of the battlefield, you'll notice that the two pike blocks are now engaged in what we call the pusher pike. It's kind of effectively like a rugby scrum. And the aim of this is to try and knock the other block onto their backsides.
It's at this stage in a battle where you can see that things start to get slightly disorganised. So the lines start to lose their shape, and that's when things can get interesting.
Certainly once the muskets have decided to go in hand to hand, it's very hard to reform a musket block.
And you can see what I meant earlier about the uniform thing. The guys on the right don't have a cohesive colour, so it's hard for them to keep track of who they're fighting and whose side they're on.
As you can see, the cannon is still firing. What they've done now, they've turned the cannons round to try and hit some of the infantry. They're now firing, still firing ball, frankly, a cannonball of these cannons is smaller than a tennis ball, but if it hits you at the speed it's going, it will take out 2 or 3 pikemen or musketeers in a rank and knock them right over. So the cannon is an extremely nasty piece of work on the field. That one caught me slightly by surprise.
Are you awake now, Andy?
I'm now awake. That's what we've actually done. We can see the Parliament moved back slightly. We're aware that we're using. You need to be able to see what's going on in the field. So Parliament just moved back slightly to allow the Royalists to then push in on them and take as much ground as they can. Certainly, the pikemen are looking extremely warm. And during the Civil War, it was a gentleman's war. The officers would often approach each other without fear of attacking each other to discuss whether they would go home or whether they would move on.
Is it time to stop for tea, Godfrey?
It might be. I think I need to go and chat to some of the commanders and find out what's actually happening on the field to see how our commanders are feeling out on the fields, Arish.
I was going to say something earlier when Andy was talking about the cannon ball being the size of a tennis ball.
I'm over here with Captain Tyrrell, who's commanding the Lunsfords today. Captain Tyrrell, how are you feeling about the battle this afternoon?
The battle's going in our favour, sir. We've taken some ground. I feel we have these men on the run, sir.
They seem to be slightly more than you, and certainly their horse are causing your musket block a lot of contemptible behaviour. How do you feel about that?
They are more than us, sir. And they do have a horse, but they are not as well trained as our men. Our men do not fear.
So your men, you feel that they are strong and able to take forward. I'm now going to move to Parliament to find how their commander is finding the battle. Sorry, Zarish, you were in the middle of something there.
I was, but, you know, it can wait.
So I'm over here with Parliament's commander, Sir Samuel Luke. Sir Samuel, how do you feel you're faring against Lunsford's force from Oxford today?
My men are full of fight and their blood is up, and we will win the day.
Certainly, sir. They seem to push you back slightly, but your pike blocks seem to be really winning the day against the Royalist pike. Do you think they will take them on the right flank and win for you?
This is the hope. They are men of true parliamentary standing.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Colonel Tyrrell, as well, and I'll leave you to carry on with your battle.
Right, so my thing about the cannon was they are legendary for not being accurate. When people jokingly say you couldn't hit a barn door at 30 paces, genuinely, cannon with that rubbish. I like to think of these battles as the triumph of hope over evidence.
That was certainly 2 volleys at once, was rather dramatic. We've not seen many casualties yet, but as we've said, they're not as accurate as you think they may be. Now there's a real stalemate in the centre with the pike blocks, and it really will see who's going to push against the other. I think at the moment it's fairly even. Going to watch carefully. Lunsfords are giving very slightly. Parliament have shoved them back. There we go. Lunsfords have fallen and they've gone down.
Just going back to what you were saying earlier, Zarish, about how you tell who's on your side. if you look out onto the field, you'll notice that all the Royalist officers are wearing red sashes, which is a way of identifying who your officer is. And if you look onto the Parliament side, most of them are wearing orange sashes, which is a really good way of telling which side you're on. Also, in certain engagements, you would wear a field signal, so that could be oak leaves or a feather or a white piece of ribbon around your arm, and that's how you'd know, on the whole, who was on your side and who wasn't.
I can see Parliament are just pulling back to reform their line. I think Sir Samuel Luke's worried about being cut off from his escape route should he need it to Newport Pagnell. So he's pulled his men back to reform there. Certainly the cannon are still firing, but Colonel Lunsford really needs to think of another ploy because his pipe block are being battered back. Let's see if he can take some of these shots.
I suppose one thing to bear in mind here with this engagement that could tell is who has a better powder supply. The Parliament have come out of their garrison, so we'll have quite a supply of powder, whereas the Royalists have been raiding Leighton Buzzard this afternoon, and so they'll have less powder, and they're tired, and they want to get back to Oxford with the cannon and anything they've taken while they were raiding. So that's going to take a toll at some point in this battle.
And the raiding parties were often for cannon, or guns, or muskets if they could take prisoners and relieve them of their arms, or drummers, not just the drummers, but the drummers and the drums. Drummers were very well educated, that's not going to be good.
Yes, arms and powder were certainly well worthwhile, and both the Royalist and the Parliamentarian armies at various times were lacking in arms and powder. It just seems to me like there's a bit of a stalemate going on, and what it needs is a bit of military genius to try and break this stalemate. And I wonder whether the Royalists have got some kind of plan going on at the moment. Certainly they're trying to take the ground, but they really seem to be bouncing back, and every time they go forward, they're being caught by the horse. So really, it's time for them to think of something else to start going forward.
Yeah, as I was saying, the drummers, if you captured drummers, you didn't kill them because they were well educated and they understood all of the battle commands. You just took them back, added them to your regiment, and that just made you more efficient because you had more personnel who were capable of doing communications.
It looks to me like Lunsford's are trying to force the issue here and go in hard on Parliament and try and take the whole of the field and push them back to Newport Pagnell and St Albans.
There is a risk here though, isn't there, because Lunsford's pipe has actually gone far ahead of Lunsford's musket, almost level with the Parliament musket. If they're not careful, it would be very easy to get behind that line and then get cut off, so they have to watch that, especially with a Parliament horse wandering around.
Sneaking around the back, as you can see, Parliament horse, certainly sneaking around there.
Like one of my dogs picking off a stray donut. Yes, I think they've realised their mistake, so they're beginning to come back now. It's easy to forget in the noise of battle and all the smoke and the shouting, and if there were people dying or injured, all of that confusion and distress as well. It's really difficult to keep track of what's going on. And a regiment could be 1,000 people. So if you imagine 1,000 people on this side and 1,500 on that side, it's going to get confusing fast. It's actually a miracle anyone went home in one piece.
Sorry, Zarish, I was talking to a soldier then.
Were you?
What was it? Did I miss something?
Were you saying hello, soldier?
I was saying hello, soldier.
I can't remember what I was saying. It wasn't that interesting.
Certainly we're going to wow, the cannon's still firing. They still not managed to hit the other cannon, but I'm just surprised that Lunsford, being such a tactician, has not yet worked out a way of sending their troops round. Although I can see a staff officer has come running in from Leighton Buzzard and has given Colonel Lunsford an order. So we need to watch to see what the Lunsfords get up to now.
I get told off for doing this sometimes, and I know it's all very interesting, it's all very exciting, and it's noisy and there's swords going, but look at how calm this horse is. Just another Saturday with the sealed knot. Whatever. Not for them.
So you can see the pike is still hammering away at the back of the field there, trying to shove the opposition out of the way enough that they can get away through. If they can knock over the Parliamentarian block, they can get through to Newport Pagnell. If they can't or are knocked over themselves, they risk losing their escape route home to Oxford, and it all depends on that.
So is Newport Pagnell a safe port on the way to Oxford?
No, it's slightly off to the right, so actually they shouldn't cross paths, but Lunsford's are really extended to be this far east from Oxford. We're northeast of Oxford, and actually in quite a dangerous situation should they be cut off.
And do we know how long they had been out on this raiding party?
They left yesterday evening and have been out all night and all during the day, so a long time on the march.
So they're cold, they're damp, they haven't had a hot meal.
No. Probably not much water,
and
to run out.
Day.
Now, Lunsford's musket appear to be doing something a bit different, and I can't see what they're doing at this stage, but it's worth watching to see. There they go.
It looks to me that they're sending out a second wing of shot to try and flank round the pike, try and take the cannon.
I think they're trying to get round to the cannon. The cannon's just fired.
Yeah, they can't fire from here, or they'll be firing at the back of their own pike block. Yes, they are. They're going round.
They're going to try and force the issue and take the cannon.
Have Parliament notice. Have Parliament notice.
I don't think so, because they've gone round the back of the pike blocks, so that the pike can't see what's going on.
Hidden by the fog of war.
I think it's a grassy knoll, actually. Something.
Yeah, they've actually brought out, as you say, Zara, they brought out a second wing of shot. So they've now got their shot right in the right place to come forward. They're going to kneel down. We're hoping that perhaps they can come round to take that corner, perhaps take the cannon.
Yes, they're kneeling at the moment in the hope that the cannonball sails safely over them and that they haven't loaded with grape shot this time.
All right, we should probably just do a quick rundown of the different types of shot. So grape shot's the little ones that just spray everywhere.
A bit like a shotgun. Just lots of little balls, putting lots of little holes into lots of people.
The aim is to turn the opposite side into a tea bag.
And then the cannon actually use different size balls, anything from under the size of a tennis ball, wow, right up to big cannonballs that you see in films on ships, and that's like a 32 or 64 pounder. Our guns here are 2 ounce and 4 ounce balls, so that's actually very small. There go Lunsford's shot. They've sneaked round on the wing. If you look over at the back of the field, they're now running in on the cannon to try and take the cannon and turn the flank of the Parliament Army. Not been noticed yet by the rest of Parliament, despite me shouting at you on the microphone. So that's good news. They've taken the cannon and disabled it. Now that now means there's no cannon fire, because obviously the Royalist cannon has stopped, so they don't shell their own troops, which would be extremely unfortunate.
And rude.
So now that Lunsford have taken the cannon, we expect them to be coming in on the back of the musket at some point, is what I will be doing were I their commander. In fact, I'm going to go over to them and find out how Colonel Lunsford's doing.
Yeah.
Now, if Colonel Lunsford's planned this properly, he'll have a three-pronged attack. He'll actually have his musket going in on the wing, his pike going in, and his second musket wing attacking from the rear, which will put the Parliamentarians into complete disarray.
So does that mean bringing the musket that went and got the cannon back onto the field?
Yeah, they should be coming into the back of either the Parliamentarian pike or the Parliamentarian musket. Here they come now. They're coming down the right flank.
Coming in behind the Parliamentarian pike would be genius. Because then you catch Parliament pike in between two lines of Royalists.
Yeah, they've got
nowhere to go.
No, and I'm waiting for them to... They seem to be caught out by the horse. Don't think the horse has read the script, but that's fair enough.
We do send it a week in advance, but the horses can be quite stubborn about that.
Okay, here they come. They've come round the side of them. The pike are trying to hold off, but actually they've gone in and taken the second musket block out instead. What means now is that the remaining large musket block on the front of Lunsford can fire in to the melee to kill off any Parliamentarian pike who are left over.
I feel like the Royalists are taking casualties coming in behind the Parliament musket there.
As is often the way, the pikemen never give up, and they're all armoured, so they think they're invincible, as we can see.
Like a really spiky hedgehog.
So it looks to me that the Royalist musket are just in a mopping up operation with the Parliament musket, the stragglers there, and I think they're going to turn their attention to this pike, this stubborn pike block in the middle of the field, and try and seize the day. They've got the cannon, they need to drive off these Parliamentarian soldiers and make a push for home.
Yeah, certainly the Parliamentarian horse is making a bid for freedom via the footbridge round to living history by the look of it, so had enough. Tends to be happening with horse. Last shot here from the shot.
I was looking at some of the history around this, and as I said this morning, if you were watching the skirmish, you've already heard this, and I do apologise, but the king was settled in London, and the Royal Mint was in the Tower of London, so he was really close to his homegrown money. If you run out, print some more. And then Parliament took the Tower of London and that mint, so he didn't have ready cash coming in. So he ended up in Oxford and set up a royal mint there, and he did that in December 1642. And this action is taking place in, was it July 1643? June 1643. So where are we? That's 6 months. It takes a long time to set up a court in buildings that aren't set up for it. They just used Oxford colleges. They stole all of their plates, all of their chalices from their chapels, melted it down, turned it into money, even their railings, because he needed to pay his soldiers. But it's quite high pressure, isn't it? You've lost your home, you've lost your supply of cash.
It looks to me that most of the Parliament pike blocker have been taken out by a charge of musketeer. The Royalist pike are following in behind, clearing them away.
Certainly there's some very vicious hand-to-hand fighting on the floor there as they go down. You can see the rest of the musket now coming in to clear up.
That is a rout, actually. That is a slaughter.
A complete rout. That taking the cannon out really disadvantaged the Parliamentarians. And I can see now the rest of the musket are going to fall on to kill off the Parliamentarian muskets.
If I was a Parliamentarian musketeer, I'd be making a swift retreat at this point.
Absolutely, running as fast as I could and running away as fast as I could as well.
So by catching the cannon, would we say then that damages the morale of the regiment and just makes everything a bit more uncertain?
Absolutely, and that was the cannon they were trying to hold on to the whole way through today. So they've lost that cannon, and it's now been taken by the Royalists. You can see the drummers have retreated to the end of the battlefield, and as you said, Zarish, we don't kill drummers, we let drummers live. This looks like the final rout now.
So that's actually the second cannon they've lost then, because the Royalists already caught
That's
them.
right, they lost 2 cannon, which is a complete disaster for the Parliamentarians.
Right, so that makes more sense to me in terms of the Parliamentarians losing their nerve. if they've had 2 failures in the space of 24 hours.
Absolutely, and you can see that the parliamentarian officers are getting their colours from the field. Sir Samuel Luke is running faster than the horse was running to get his colours and flags and drums away. Looks like the last man here, they've just about got him, I think.
So getting the colours away, we refer to the colours, we mean the flag. It's the colours were said to be the soul of the regiment, and they were very highly
Absolutely.
valued.
And in
you
fact,
don't let them touch the ground, you don't let them be caught.
And if the ensign was killed, if the ensign thought he was going to be killed, he should wrap himself in the colour and die on the colour, so they had to move his body to get to the colour. So certainly they were well beloved, and that was the honour of the regiment. They've managed to withdraw in good order what's left of Parliament. That's their colours, their officer, Sir Samuel Luke, and the drummers.
It's been a very successful 24-hour period for Colonel Ludsford, but he won't have much longer to enjoy it, because in just over a month's time he'll be part of Prince Rupert's force that will march out from Oxford to storm Bristol, and in the storming of Bristol he will die in a breach in the walls as his brave boys in blue go flying through, and they will so impress Prince Rupert in this action that he will then take on the regiment and they'll become the Prince Rupert's Bluecoats that we mainly reenact today.
So you can see here parliamentarians trying to succour their dead who are really not, well, certainly wounded down there, and the majority of them have taken casualties. What we're going to do, because we are the Sealed Knot and we reenact battles and they're not real, we don't take it that it's a silly or a daft thing. This is a serious reenactment for us, recreating history to educate people, but also we acknowledge that in real wars that's not a thing to celebrate or to enjoy. However, we do have something quite magic in the Sealed Knot that unfortunately in real wars we don't have, and that magic is, in a moment, if I ask you to give a large round of applause, it will raise up any of the soldiers who are play acting dead on the field. So if you give me a round of applause, and we'll raise the dead.
Unfortunately, your applause doesn't take out grass stains, but never mind, eh?
And there's lots of horse poo on the field as well today, so that'll be nice for people.
If you're, really devoted to your roses. I would like, if I may, to acknowledge the Sealed Knot medics. If you can see me in the church top, these people to my left in the black tabards with the white crosses on, would you mind standing up, Sealed Knot medics? These people are members of the Sealed Knot. They come out, they join the knot, they want to have a good time. But they're qualified medical personnel, and then they volunteer to give up their fun afternoon, making sure that people who are hurt are all right and patched up again. And that to me is a very special kind of volunteering, because this is your hobby, but you give it up for an afternoon to look after us. Thank you so much, so much.
Thank you to our medics, wonderful people. Thank you so much.
If I may request a
nice round of applause there for them. So we're forming up our regiments with two, well, we essentially make up 2 regiments together, and what we'll have here is our Royalists, which were Lunsfords, with the Parliamentarians next to them. We hope they're going to line up facing the crowd, so we can give you a general salute and then march off to the, on our way out of the battlefield, back to the living history.
Do we have a recruitment tent here today?
We do have a recruitment tent. It's in the living history. There are plenty of pictures, magazines, and also phone numbers and web addresses for you to contact or for us to contact you. If you fancy using a pike on the field, or firing a musket, firing a cannon, or if you're skilled and can ride a horse, we've always got a place for you, but we've also got a place for medics, for our waterers, for our drummers, and for our camp followers. So plenty of time and space for everyone to join the Sealed Knot.
Not forgetting, if you want to spend June, July and August in 90-degree heat, wearing calico, wool and armour, it is the best fun you can have with that many clothes on. She said, not wearing any of those clothes.
Extremely sensible, as Arish, I have to say today. Just coming down to this end of the field to release our soldiers, who will be saluting you as a general salute in a moment.
Do they go through the rugby posts?
No, I'm going to... Oh, yes, they're going to come around the side of the rugby post. Just for the fun of it. I think we'll probably catch the pikes on the top.
That would have been such a good photograph. Thank you very much for joining us. It's a hell of a lot of fun for us, but we only get to do it because we have a paying crowd, and you fund us getting to carry on doing it. When I joined the Sealed Knot 25 years ago or something silly, this wasn't taught in schools. People didn't know that we'd had a civil war. I used to get people saying to me, "Oh, I knew that America had a civil war. I didn't know that we did." And that's one of the reasons we do it. It's never about glorifying war or glorifying battles or glorifying slaughter. It's never about that. It's about educating people so that it doesn't happen again. And that's where we're at. So thank you very much. I hope you had a wonderful time. When they take their hats off, you can see really how hot they are. I can feel it from
So leading both armies off, we have the host regiment for this weekend, which is Prince Rupert's Bluecoats.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's the Sealed Knot marching off for you.
Soldiers, rise!